It's September 2018, and for the first time ever, the Ryder Cup is being hosted in France. Heading into the event, things looked like they could get really bad for the European team. The US team, they had just won in 2016. They were heavy favourites, and they had a new task force making all their decisions. They had lots of major winners on the team. Times were good, but there was only one problem. This upstart US team had no idea that when they arrived in France that year, they were about to walk straight into a trap. Literally overnight, Le Golf National was changed in small and specific ways that helped the European team and hurt the US team. For years, tailoring the host course to the home team advantage had always been done. But in 2018, this European team was armed with a team of stats nerds and advanced analytics. They pushed that strategy into overdrive. And in doing so, they had just perfected the dark art of tricking up their own golf course. American players just kept playing poorly and had no idea why, while the European players, they just kept finding themselves in perfect position, over and over and over again. What seemed unthinkable at the start of the event had become a reality by the end of it. The underdogs Europe lifted the trophy once again. But this was no fluke occurrence. It was the perfection of a strategy that the Europeans had spent years mastering. Some US fans consider this practice an unfair form of gamesmanship. The Europeans, well, to them, it was nothing more than a clever and very crafty game plan. It's easy to point to a home crowd providing the edge during Ryder Cups, and yes, there's definitely some truth to that. But Ryder Cups in many ways are won and lost not with the crowd, but with the captains. The Ryder Cup rules allow the host country to make alterations to the course both before and during the event, which allows the home team to stack the deck in ways that really help their team. This process starts years in advance. In Europe, when a golf course bids to host a Ryder Cup, they also agree to pick up the tab for a DP World Tour event in the years leading up to the Ryder Cup. At Le Golf National, it was the French Open. At Marco Simone, the host of this year's Ryder Cup, it's the Italian Open. There are two good reasons for this. The first is obvious, money. It's really good business for the DP World Tour. But the second is more clever. It creates a course-specific dataset which the European team then uses for the Ryder Cup itself. They run hundreds of thousands of predictive models about different styles of players who play well and those who struggle, along with the placements of different hazards and bunkers and OB. They mix it all together and they use it to create a perfect little course recipe, ideally designed to play to the European strengths and highlight the US team's weaknesses. In 2018, stats like these uncovered that the US team hit the ball longer off the tee, but they also missed more fairways. They found that when key US players like Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed did miss the fairway, they missed by about 30 feet on average. To maximise these errors, the European team decided to push back the gallery so it was more away from the fairway. They decided to move the rope line back about 2.5 yards from where it was originally planned. Why? Because rather than these players missing the fairway but finding their ball in a trampled down lie by fans, these players would be stuck in thick, juicy rough. And they were proven right. This group of players won just 2 points of a possible 14 that year. Another clever trap the European team laid in 2018 was realising that US players had a distinct advantage at wedge shots inside of 125 yards. So, they began moving tees forwards and backwards to make sure these players avoided those ideal distances, and instead, they ran them into bottlenecks at more awkward yardages. Moving the tees back on the 1st and 15th holes at Marco Simone are two places you could see them doing them again this year. Those advanced data also inform pairing choices and, crucially, which players should tee off on which holes during alternate shot, a format the European team has historically thrived in. In 2018, Europe's stats nerds realised that the player who teed off on even holes could potentially hit the approach shot into the green on the pivotal 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th holes. So, to make sure this happened, they kept the tee back on the 14th hole to ensure it was playing as a 3-shot par 5. Then, they moved the tee into an optimal range on the par 3 16th hole and stacked their best iron players so that player would hit the shot on all those holes. Europe won 6 of 8 points in the foursome sessions that year. With 3 of Marco Simone's 4 par 5s coming on even holes, and 3 of its par 3s coming on odd holes, you could see a similar strategy unfold in Italy, with the long drivers instructed to tee off on even holes and the better iron players on the odds. These may sound like small advantages, but over the course of multiple Ryder Cups, these add up into huge gains for the home team. The European team has mastered this strategy over the years, and it's why the US team hasn't won in Europe in 30 years.
So now one of the big things with course setup is that the week before, I believe it's Sunday night, the manipulation by the home team has to stop, and everybody has to know going in, this next week, the conditions are what they're going to be, so that every team gets fair practice. That's because, when this kind of thing started developing, when people really took it to the extremes, you would have, tee positions placed in practice rounds to fool players, things like that. That they eventually had to come down hard and say, we're not going to do that anymore. You can manipulate it all you want, you can design it to your liking, but in the week leading up, that's over. Now players have to know where they're hitting from. They have to know what the course is going to be like. We take your ability to change it away from you then.
The extent of the home team's advantage over the years has grown so much that some people wonder if this kind of stuff shouldn't be allowed. There should be more rules governing course setup to help balance things out for the away team. But whether you think this is smart strategy or unfair gamesmanship, the fact remains. When a Ryder Cup team arrives on enemy soil, their task isn't simply overcoming a crowd rooting heavily against them, but navigating a course designed to trap them. That's how Ryder Cups are won and lost, and if the US team can do that in 2023, they'll return to their homeland deserving and worthy champions.